All right. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Gabriel Breuer. This is one of our videos for the 2020 MATC Online Scholars Program. And I'm here today with Professor Rebekka Schlichting from KU, University of Kansas. Hello, Rebekka.
Hello. Thanks for
Thanks for,
having me.
thanks for joining us today. The video today is part of a series on introduction to a four-year degree. And the idea for this series is to give our students just an idea of what a four-year degree looks like in a particular major. And Rebekka today is going to talk to us about a journalism major. So she'll go over a number of different options that you can study if you study or if you're interested in journalism, and what it would look like to complete a degree in that major. And so just a little bit of background about Professor Schlichting. We've been collaborating for many years in various outreach programs. She has been part of the Scholars Program since 2016. That was the first one, and then I think in every one since, except for last year when you were just having or just about to have your daughter, which she'll tell you about in her presentation. So we're really happy to have her back. We also go way back in terms of another outreach program, our Sovereign Native Youth STEM Leadership Academy, which you started working with in 2013.
Yep.
And then continued going also until just recently. So we're really happy to have Rebekka with us, and she's got a presentation, and I'm just going to let her take the lead, and I'll interrupt if we have any questions. Rebekka, happy to have you here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and I appreciate that all of you are taking some time to listen to my video and just think about journalism and how it might be a fit for a career for you. And even if you're not interested maybe in producing news, there are tons of opportunities that relate to journalism. So I'll kind of start by giving you a little bit more information about myself. I am this one. I'm Rebekka Schlichting. I'm Iowa tribe from Kansas and Nebraska. I'm also Wichita, Caddo, and Delaware from Oklahoma, and I am Cheyenne, Sac and Fox, and Kaw from this area, and I'm currently living in Lawrence, Kansas. So the reason why I posted this picture first was this is my family. These are my sisters. And family is very important to me. We're all at a powwow here, and we're all part of the powwow committee back home, the Iowa Tribe Powwow. And it's a really important part of my life. My culture has always been an important part of my life. And I grew up in this area near Whiteclay, Kansas, with my family. And I went to a small school, a tribal school with 12 people. It was my graduating class. And it was a Kickapoo Nation school in Kansas. So we had culture classes, we had language class, in the morning we had drum class. It was a really amazing experience. We didn't have all of the classes that I needed to get into a big university like KU. And in fact, a lot of people that I went to school with did not go to big universities. And so it was pretty amazing that I was able to kind of overcome some things and be one of the first people to pioneer, go to KU. And I like to use that term pioneer because usually it's used against natives, but here I'm using it in the reverse way. So I was lucky enough to work really hard and have the motivation to work really hard, and the skills and the opportunities like this one, where I listened to a lot of leaders talk, or a lot of people who were very inspirational talk, and when they were talking, I took that really serious, and I took those things that they said to heart. And when my elders would say things like, you need to go out and get your education and come back and help your people, I took those things to heart. In fact, I wanted to be a lawyer because that's what my elders back home were telling me that I should be. But in school, when I was in junior high, one of the teachers at my school wanted to start a newspaper and asked me to join. So I helped with that newspaper. I ended up winning some journalism awards, and then went on to KU for journalism with the intro to, or a focus on pre-law, and then took some political science classes and decided I'm not interested in law or politics right now. I want to just focus on kind of what I'm good at, which was being hands-on and doing hands-on things and being behind the camera and talking to people. And so I just stuck with journalism, and I had no idea what I was going to do. People back home would always say, oh, I can't wait to see you on the TV someday, you know, as a broadcaster or as a host during the news or something like that. But I was more interested in, you know, being behind the lens and giving Native people a voice, because we are often not heard in the media, or if we are in the media, it's typically something about casinos, something negative, or something romanticized or stereotyped. And I thought, you know, our voices need to be heard, because there are decisions out there being made in politics and in government that affect our lives, but they don't even think about Native people because they don't hear us. And so giving a voice to our people has been my biggest goal. And just to, you know, that's how I'm coming back to help my people. So this is a picture of me behind the lens during a internship that was backpack reporting, which is multimedia reporting. So it's sort of a one-man band where I did everything by myself. And this is what I was taught at the University of Kansas. You know, they give you a camera, a microphone, a light kit, and interview skills, and lots of skills and preparation before going into the field. But then when you're actually in the field, able to talk, and here I'm making a documentary, a short documentary that went on to a film festival and won an award through NAJA as well. And these experiences have been nothing but, you know, really humbling and really great opportunities for me to help us, to help elevate the Native voice and perspective. This story in particular was about a reverse missionary trip where a Native guy, actually Kevin Abrest, who lives in Lincoln, Nebraska, and has been affiliated with MATC as well, he took his congregation to Pine Ridge Indian Reservation to, instead of go there to do a mission trip where people would build a church or fix up a building or bring a ton of clothes, they went there to learn about what the people there actually needed and wanted. And so it was sort of a reverse mission trip, and that's what my documentary was focused on. Shortly after I made this short documentary, I graduated from the University of Kansas in 4 years, which is pretty amazing, because when I went there, I thought, I'm not good enough to be here. And, you know, part of that is because we don't see Native people represented in media, or sometimes not even in our communities as college graduates. And so when I got to KU, this big place and all of a sudden I'm in a dorm with 50 girls where most of them are non-Native, non-minorities, and I'm one of the few minorities there. And it was total culture shock for me. But I overcame a lot, and I had to sit in my classes of sometimes 400 students and be that one Native in there. And when a Native topic came up in a lecture, all the eyes went to me. My face was flushed, and sometimes tears started forming. But, you know, I wanted to be the voice in whatever way I could, you know, to sort of try to help people understand Native perspective, and to understand that one person can't talk for all of us, and one tribe doesn't represent all of us, because we are nations of over 500 in America. And so that was my, you know, I continued to be motivated by those things, being the only voice, and people asking me questions that I thought were definitely ignorant throughout my time at KU. But, you know, I realized that these are great opportunities to inform people and let them know this is how we actually live. And these are our actual problems and issues that we face every day and that affect our communities. And we need you to understand these so that we can work together and make this world a better place for all people, including Native people. So after I went to the University of Kansas, I got recruited by the University of Nebraska, which is where Gabe is, to be a student in journalism, to get my master's in professional journalism, to be exact. And that took 2 years. And it was an amazing experience where I got to go for free because I was a TA. So I helped teach classes while I was there. And in those classes, sometimes there were 150 students. I was just this tiny, little res girl who's very shy at first. And all of a sudden, bam, I'm in a lecture hall on stage in front of 150 students that I do not know. And all of a sudden expected, to represent again our people, or a part of our people, a small part of our people, and help people to understand that we are here today and we don't look like the Redskins or the Cleveland Indians, and we are very alive and thriving, as well as our culture and our reclamation efforts as well. And so I was very blessed to be able to graduate in 2 years, and this is my best friend, who also graduated with me. That's Peyton Cancu, and she's from the Flandreau area in South Dakota. So this is at the UNL powwow, actually, that was on the green outside of the Union, and they honor their graduates every year. College, you can see that behind us there are the Native students who put together this powwow. And college, sometimes I felt like I don't belong here because it's a predominantly white institution, both of the universities that I went to. And like I said, well, we're not really represented in these spaces, but I knew that it was important for me to be in these spaces because I was helping to make a path for people after me, but also, standing on the shoulders of the people who came before me and did great things before me and dove into these waters. It's important to make yourself uncomfortable. It's important to get out of your comfort zone because that's how you're going to really grow and become a very successful person, make your life well-rounded, and to help your communities and to help empower other people to want to be a successful part, and in terms of being a successful American citizen. But in addition to that, helping your people, coming back and really giving something back that's something that they can take away with and use it to make a better life for themselves. I was always taught, go learn the white man's way, is what I was told, to be frank, and use that against them. Use it to help your people and to make this world a better place for all of us. So that really, those motivational talks, they just kind of stuck with me, and I stuck with it even when things got really tough in school and I thought there's no way I'm going to be able to make it. Sometimes you just got to sit there and force yourself to get your homework done, or force yourself to prioritize your schoolwork, even though many things can be happening at home, which at home I endured 2 very close family deaths while I was going to school, and just thinking about constantly, they would want you to be successful at school. And so that's what I kept doing. I kept sticking to my studies and making those efforts and just putting one foot in front of the other every single day. All you have to do is, have that motivation in your heart somewhere, and just remember that your ancestors are always behind you, and they're pulling you out of bed, and they're going to pull you into class if you believe in that. And you will get there, definitely. So in 2016, I was able to graduate from the University of Nebraska with my master's, which comes after your undergraduate degree. And then I taught at the University of Nebraska for a year as an adjunct professor in this class called Wounds of Whiteclay. And Wounds of Whiteclay is a multimedia project that we ran over the course of a year. We had 11 students, none of them were Native. I was the Native person who sort of had to be the cultural advisor, but then also advise on the stories as well. So this story is about Whiteclay, Nebraska, which was a town of 12 people that sold 4 million cans of beer a year. See, this is the town right here. Very small town. And the reason why they sold so much beer was because a lot of it was going to the dry reservation, the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, just across the border in South Dakota, walking distance to Whiteclay. So the liquor store owners were making bank off Native people, exploiting our people, and oftentimes there were people living on the streets of Whiteclay. There was a woman named Sherry Woundedfoot who was murdered behind one of the dilapidated buildings in Whiteclay. They never found her murderer. And in fact, the FBI didn't even come to investigate until 2 months after the fact, where all the evidence had washed away already. So there were a lot of injustices happening in this town. People were being sold for beer. It was terrible. And we had this class put together where we helped to gather evidence that ultimately helped to get these liquor stores shut down because they were in violation of their liquor licenses. So there are a number of stories here. And I just want to briefly go over a few because this is just to show you what journalism, what kind of work you can do to help your people in journalism. Specifically, here we worked on a social justice issue. And people have been fighting since the 80s or longer to get the stores in Whiteclay shut down. So you can find this. It's called woundsofwhiteclay.com. Up here you can see the address. And the life expectancy for a male in Pine Ridge was 47, compared to the national average, which the male life expectancy was 81.6. Sorry, it was really small. Pine Ridge County, or which is called Oglala County, is actually the poorest place in America. This is put here by ranks of poverty, and this it coincides with also other statistics about Pine Ridge that are very upsetting. But 80 to 90% homelessness, or not homeless, sorry, joblessness, poverty rates, alcoholism rates, all of those rates are between 80, 90%, or were at least. I don't know anymore because I haven't been involved with this since 2017, which is when this project ended. So there's some really concerning statistics about Pine Ridge, and this is one of the graphics that one of our students put together that shows just the U.S. suicide completions is this teal box compared to the 2015 Pine Ridge completions of suicide in this box, compared to the U.S. 2014 estimated attempts on suicide. And then you might think this is a background, but this is not a background. This is the 2015 attempts on Pine Ridge. And those ages ranged from 7 years old and up. And it was really heartbreaking. So a lot of these issues, these social issues, stemmed from the alcoholism, which stems from a year of mistrust from the government, a year of years of historical trauma from things like boarding schools or the massacre at Wounded Knee, where over 300 innocent men, women, and children, mostly women and children, were murdered on Pine Ridge. So we went to Pine Ridge. We made, I don't know, maybe 6 trips up to Pine Ridge, which is about an 8-hour drive from Lincoln, Nebraska, to capture videos, to capture these stories of injustice, but also we captured stories of hope. This is one of our amazing stories of hope. And now I'm happy to say that she is a lawyer on the Pine Ridge Reservation. So she left the reservation to become a lawyer, came back, and is now helping her people. So there are some empowering stories on here too. Anyway, long story short, this project was just one of the many ways that I've been able to help to give our people a voice. And this class won the RFK, Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Award. And on top of that, they give out 20 of these awards, and they go to places like HBO, The New Yorker, Univision, these big names, National Geographic. we were sitting in this room in Washington, D.C. with all of these big names. And then they announced a grand prize, which totally hit us from nowhere because we had no idea there was a grand prize. So out of all of these 20 projects, all these great places, one project won the ultimate prize, and that was this class. We won the Wounds of Whiteclay, won the Human Rights Award grand prize from the Kennedys, and it was an amazing experience to be a part of that. And we got national and international recognition for that as well. So I did that for a year, taught that for a year, and then moved on to Vision Maker Media to become the assistant director. And Vision Maker Media is a small nonprofit of 8 people located in the University of Nebraska on East Campus. And Vision Maker, I no longer work there now, but they give money and resources and education and tools and training to Native American and Alaska Native filmmakers so that we can make our own stories, so that people will stop making our stories and romanticizing or stereotyping us. So we have an authentic voice and we're putting our stories out there. And these stories that Vision Maker is a part of typically go to our documentaries that go to public television. So if you've ever seen on public television a Native American documentary, most likely it had something to do with Vision Maker, and we had Native people on the team at some level or another. And that's just a way that we are helping to empower Native people to share our own stories, to build that compassion and understanding of Native life, of our ways, of our issues, of our struggle, of our strengths, so that we can build compassion in this world and partnerships and ultimately healing from the past. So now I'm a mother of 2. This is my stepdaughter, Aspen. She's a sweetheart. She's 5 years old, working in virtual kindergarten now. This is Elizabeth. She is now almost 13 months old, so a year and a month. And they are pretty much my world now, but I'm also teaching at the University of Kansas as a professor. I'm technically a assistant professor of practice. And it's a pretty fun experience. I teach a multimedia journalism class and I teach a basic video production. So this past weekend, this was 2 of my students out in the field. We're at the Humane Society where they had a COVID-friendly social distancing and all of that obstacle course for the dogs that wanted to come, for anybody who wanted to come and run an obstacle course. And back here, they gave them some treats. And then the dog who ran the obstacle course the fastest won a prize. And so these are 2 of my students in the multimedia production class. And they're just out in the field. You know, that's what I love about journalism. You learn how to use a camera really well. You get hands-on experience. You learn the basics of communication and really good writing so that you can write without bias. You can write clear communication pieces. And there are just so many things that you can learn in journalism that can go across the board. I mean, not just for working in the news, but you can go out and promote a company. That's part of journalism. I worked in the documentary field for a while, and everything that I learned from the journalism school was perfect. It teaches you very good skills for research in addition to hands-on things. And so I wanted to show you just a couple of things that we offer at the University of Kansas. And this is just to show you that across the board, journalism schools, they have really great programs that you can get involved with. So we have a news and information track, which was what I chose. And that's more focused on writing. If you want to write for a newspaper or a magazine, it's focused on news. Broadcast if you want to be on TV or behind the camera even, or digital, web, making different graphics, things like that. You can learn animation. It's pretty fun. Strategic communication, that is more of taking a company, say Colgate, and promoting a toothpaste that's doing the PR work on that, public relations, or public relations for, let's say, the White House. Right now in the news, there's a lot about Trump having COVID, and the messages that are coming out of the White House are sometimes put together by the PR representatives. And right now, there's a lot of conflicting information coming out, but you know. And journalism minor as well. That's you don't have to major in journalism to be in the journalism school or to take journalism classes. If you're interested, you can just take a few classes and just see what it's like to be a journalist. Sports media concentration, that's a huge one. People love sports. If you want to be on the field taking photos or doing video of the NFL, the Chiefs maybe, this is the way to go. That's how you get into it. That's how you get to work for ESPN someday. My dream was always to be a writer for the Rolling Stones so I could meet a lot of rock stars, but that didn't really pan out the way I wanted it to, but that's okay because I got to focus on more important things to myself, I mean. Just to give you an idea of the different hands-on projects that we have going on, we have KUJH TV, which is a broadcast television news station. It broadcasts every single day, sometimes twice a day. You can check it out on YouTube, but you get experience sitting behind the desk, being an anchor, a news anchor if you want. You can be a producer, which is what I did. It's more behind the scenes, setting up what the show's going to look like. You can work on the graphics side or running the control board. You can even just run the teleprompter and type in everything that will be on the teleprompter and make sure that it's running smoothly. It's really hard to run a news show from behind the scenes smoothly, but this is great hands-on experience. We also have the University Daily Kansan, which is the online newspaper that students put together. And I was a part of this when it was still physical paper. Not that I'm that old, but it was really cool because I got to have front page stories, and that was awesome because I got to, go pick up a newspaper every day and look and see my byline. This is by Rebekka Schlichting, and it's a story. And I tried to do stories that were focused on Native issues so that we had some sort of Native representation in these spaces, which if you pick up a newspaper, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be nothing about Natives in there. So this is why it's important for us to get out there, share our voices, get these skills, and try to use them in whatever way possible. If you're interested in doing a comedy show or anything like that, this is the way to go too. So the agency is a ad agency where they put together real ad campaigns and branding, messaging, marketing, things like that, social media, for different businesses. Usually they work with local nonprofits in Lawrence, Kansas. And then Media Crossroads, which is sort of an extension of the broadcast studio. You can also use this for multimedia projects. Like I said, if you wanted to do a comedy show, something like that, if you want to work on a YouTube channel, this studio is open to anybody who wants to work on it and get some behind the scenes production experience. We also have KJHK, which is the radio station that hires students to work as DJs, disc jockeys. So pretty cool stuff going on here. And at other universities in journalism as well. So that is all I have for you. Thank you very much from my friends Big J and Little J and James Naismith here at the University of Kansas. Rock Chalk Jayhawk. Go basketball. Don't hate me because of our football team. Not a football fan there. But yeah, that's all I have for you all today. So thank you for listening to me. And Gabe, I don't know if you had any other questions.
Yeah, I do have some questions, but yes, I want to also thank you for that amazing presentation and also to congratulate you on, like all that you've achieved throughout this. It sounds like it's been a very fulfilling journey up until this point. So
definitely.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So just a couple of questions. So it sounds like, for somebody like me that didn't really have that much background into journalism, it sounds like what I was thinking was more in the written, like the writing and investigating stories, but it sounds like the skill set is way beyond that. And so I'm taking it that that includes people who are interested in like graphic design, like acting, um, and then like technical production, so electronics, having to do with, you know, all kinds of stuff. So that's really, I think that's super helpful, and especially to, you know, like our audience who also might kind of just maybe not have had that. In some
Yeah,
of the classes, oh, go ahead.
yeah, we have a professor here that was a developer for Animal Crossing, so video games too. Yeah, it's across the board, really.
So that is, yeah, that's awesome, and that's super helpful. So for like for some of the classes that, you know, you had to take, were there ones that sort of pushed your boundaries of what you know, you could even expect?
Oh yeah, every class, every class I had to take. So yeah, got me out of my comfort zone in one way or another. And a lot of that is because you have to talk to strangers in journalism, and you have to get stories. You have to, you know, confront a stranger, build trust with them in a matter of maybe seconds to minutes to get quotes from them, to get information for a story from them. You know, so you really learn a lot of personable skills. I think that helped a lot with my shyness and you know, because we were forced to do interviews, not forced, but you know, if you want to get an A or you want to work in journalism, you got to practice. And you know, school is the perfect time to practice to get better at those things. Even though I didn't want to do those things, I never wanted to go in documentary, and I felt like people kept pushing me to go into documentary. And once I got there, it was amazing. And I was traveling all over the place, going to these lavish film festivals,
Oh,
staying up in Park City with the ski resorts, and going to these hoity-toity parties with all these cool filmmakers, indie people, and all that, you know. And it was an amazing experience, even though I kept thinking, like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to. Sometimes I would pick up the phone, like right before I would call somebody for an interview. I would just think, I don't want to do this today. I really don't want to do this because I was not the type of people person. I worked at Subway when I turned 18, and I hated it because I had to tell everybody that walked through the door with a smile, "Welcome to Subway." And I
uh-huh.
would not smile, and my boss would say, "You need to smile more." And I was not that type of person. I was an angry teenager, and I did not like people. And this helped with that. You know, it kind of broadened my experiences by far and made me get out of my comfort zone so that I could get an A, so I could graduate and get a job and hopefully help my people. You know, whenever we would go around in class and say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I always said, "I want to change the world." And so
Hmm.
I would always get these looks like, "Who does this girl think she is?" You know.
Well, I mean, it certainly sounds like the Wounds of Whiteclay project, you know, did make a change. Do you
Yeah.
have any projects in the upcoming future that you'll be
Yeah.
looking at?
I do. So, funny story. When I got here, they said, "Oh, you're going to teach documentary next semester." I'm like, "Great," because now I love documentary, and I am so excited to teach it because I want, you know, the next generation of storytellers to be even better than the previous. And so I'm going to teach a documentary class. So I started asking around, asking Native professors around here, you know, what Native issues are happening locally, because I'm coming from Nebraska. I have no idea what's going on here. So can you fill me in? And there's a rock. I'm like, okay, there's a rock. So what about this rock? And there's this boulder that's sitting at a really busy intersection in Lawrence. I mean, and it's a prayer rock. It's a boulder that belonged actually to one of my mini tribes, the Kaw people, and it was originally put in a different location in Kansas, but it was moved to Lawrence, and it has a plaque of the first pioneers that came from Massachusetts in two waves. And I'm like, okay, so this was a sacred prayer rock to the Kaw tribe, and now it's defaced, and it has people who probably killed a bunch of Kaws, or maybe even worse, I don't know, on this rock, and it's a very
Hmm.
sacred rock. And so there's a movement to repatriate this rock to either the Kaw tribe or back to where it originally was from. And so my documentary class, I hope, is going to focus on that issue and see if we can't help get it repatriated.
Excellent. So basically at bottom, the work that you are always doing is related to social issues that are, facing Native people at this time. And it's just kind of a matter of finding those and then turning your attention on them in lots of different creative ways.
Yeah, graphics, video, interviews, getting the story from people. Sometimes, we're all a victim to, and we're all limited to our own experiences. So it's really powerful to hear somebody else's story. And it's really powerful to be, and on the journalism perspective, because you're kind of forcing people to listen to that story. So to get the story of the Kaw people and why this rock is important to communicate in a broader scale why things like this are important to Native people and why we need to, respect them and what that looks like.
Yeah, they're social issues, but the thing that you create is something new surrounding it. It's like the issue of Whiteclay has been around for so long, but the stories that you guys created were a product of, all your collaborative efforts.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Excellent. Let's see, how are we doing on time? Okay, we're probably on our time. So could you tell our audience just kind of like what was your favorite kind of class and class experience when you were an undergrad? And how did that sort of help you see what you wanted to go on and do?
I wouldn't say this was a class experience, but it was an internship experience. When I was an undergrad, I was very motivated, and I took 4 internships. One of them was waking up at 5 a.m. and going to a news station, but I was working for the Lawrence Journal-World, and I saw on the cover of the paper that they were covering the local high school sports. And I knew about Haskell Indian Nations right down the road from KU, right down the road from all of these high schools who had sports that day. Never mentioned in the newspaper. This is our town too. This is Haskell's town too. Why are they not in the newspaper? Then I started looking. When was the last time Haskell was mentioned in the newspaper? Oh, it was about rape, or it was about crime, or something negative happening. And so I went around to my news editors and I said, why are we not reporting about Haskell? And they gave me the runaround. Oh, I don't know. I just got here. Go talk to this person. Oh, I don't know. This person was working on it. Oh, I don't know. Blah, blah, blah. And the communication just isn't there. Really the understanding wasn't there. The effort wasn't there. It was never there to begin with. And so I made it a point to make a story about Native issues happen in the newspaper. So I pitched a story about, at the time there was a lot of I Don't Know More protests. And so I pitched a story about I Don't Know More protests. At this point, I'm an intern. I'm not a front page writer. I'm writing the fluff pieces. A lot of things that people don't really care, but it's like, oh, this is a nice story. Good for her, And so I pitched this story, and my editor, probably because I gave her so much, flack about not including Native people or Haskell, she said, okay, go for it. So I wrote the story, and I did it over a weekend, and I put in extra hours because I wanted to do it right. I wanted to get everything right. I wanted to get that authenticity in there, so that people weren't, romanticizing or stereotyping, things like that. I wrote the story. Next day, it's on the front page.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I was amazed. And while I was writing it, I was just crying because I was like, I'm breaking into a new space, and this is actually going to be a huge part of my life. And it was on the front page, and I was very happy that finally I could help to call some attention to what was happening in our communities locally.
Mm-hmm.
So
and then you just chase that feeling.
Kept going. Well, it
awesome.
started back in high school. I had talked to this one of the Kansas House of Representatives at the time, who said that the assimilation process of Native people was compassionate. And that's disgusting because it was not. Boarding schools were not compassionate. They were abusive. A lot of kids died. And to get that quote from a Native perspective was huge. And I want a best high school news story. I think it was in ninth grade at the time. That was the first time where, my jaw dropped. And and then I thought, okay, journalism, this is the way people think about us. This is wrong.
Yeah,
This
you
needs to
realize
change.
that their perceptions are just way off base. Yeah.
Yeah, way off.
I promise, the last question. So it'll be my parting question. So what advice do you have for our TCU students who are interested in, transitioning to a four-year program or a four-year institution, whether it be, like a large institution or, like a smaller four-year college, but just kind of making that leap into the next step?
Yeah, when I was looking at the University of Kansas, my teachers and community members, some of them said, you go to that university, you're going to be a number. You won't be a name, you won't be a face, you will just be a number. Nobody's going to care about you. Nobody's going to care if you succeed or not. You'll just be a number. But, I got here and people kept saying to me, get involved, get involved. That will be how you will find your comfort here. You'll make your own community here. You will feel welcomed. And so I found, I looked as soon as I got here, and I found the First Nation Student Association, which is the Native Club on campus. And I became a part of that. And then I helped to put the powwow together, and we worked on other Native issues, Native representation or education on campus. And so that became my home. Everybody in that group, we were all from different majors, but that became my comfort place. And we accomplished a lot of stuff while we were in undergrad. I mean, it could always be more, but we did a lot together, and it was an amazing experience, so get involved. I definitely say right away, as soon as you can, get involved, because it'll be easy for you to go back home every weekend if you want it to be. And then you feel like you're not part of the university or not part of the college experience because you're going home all the time and you don't have that community at school. I think community is the most important thing. That and mentors and mentees. You should always be looking for a mentor. And I was lucky enough to have Lori Ramirez as my faculty or my student advisor. She was my advisor while I was here, and she's Native. And I would always see her at a powwows and stuff. And so that was really great. I had to look to find her, to find a Native faculty advisor, but that was really important to me that I had an advisor that was Native, because I was coming from a Native community, a Native school even, and not having much experience outside that. So get that mentorship. And then and through that process, I was able to be a mentor to incoming students after a year. And that was really helpful too, because it's helpful for once after you learn something to teach it to somebody else, because it reaffirms everything that you learned in your own brain. But it also helps the next generation get empowered, be empowered in everything. So yeah, get involved. Don't be afraid to, as a professor, go see your professors at their office hours, or right now I'm holding Zoom hours. So, a student, if they can't make my office hours, they say, just ask to meet with me on Zoom. And I feel so much more connected to them as a human rather than looking at them as a number. I have 80 students, 17 that are my students, and only my students, but having the ones that make the effort to actually talk to me or meet with me outside of class, I connect them better to their assignments, and it's easier to get a better grade. I'll just put it that way, if you know your professor. So definitely, it's like it's really I would say intimidating at first to talk to your professors, because they're like, oh, they worked for the New York Times, or they did these great, wonderful things. They know everything. And maybe they have a really hard shell in class. But once you get to know them, most often professors, they want to teach, and they're here because they want to see the next generation be successful.
Yeah.
And they want to know you. So that's the best thing you can do.
Yep, that's excellent advice. Community, mentors, and then passing that along to like the next generation that is on their way.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. All right. Well, I'd like to thank you, Rebekka, for the interview and for all the information. I'll probably, actually, one thing that we'll be doing for these videos is posting links. And I would also, I don't know if I'll post your email, but your email is in the presentation, and I think you'd be comfortable with students contacting you. It's also available in the program booklet. So if you're interested in journalism or with speaking with Rebekka more, please feel free to do that. That's what she wants to do.
Yes, definitely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. And also for the participants in the program, take a look in the description below. In addition to the information, I'll have some response questions that I'll post, and that will be part of the program completion. So do take a look down there, and I'd like to thank everybody.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.